I've been working with primarily a single perspective view and occasionally using Alt-W or the maximize toggle here to drop into back and forth between, my orthographic views here and this single perspective view. And we've explored a little bit this right-click menu on the title of the of whichever viewport you're looking at. So we have views. You can change it to any one of those. You can change the draw method, smooth highlights, wireframe edge faces, that sort of thing. There's a few other things that you can do in this view menu, this viewport menu, and then there is a separate views menu right here, which pertains to whatever active viewport that you're looking at. So if we right click here, you can configure. So let's right click in perspective view, configure that, and you can change. You come up with this viewport configuration dialog here, which allows you to change a bunch of different things. Here you can set your rendering level here as well. So the right click is a shortcut to all of that stuff. You can set the field of view for your perspective camera. So if I change a field of view, right now it's 61.771. If I change this, it's like changing the focal length of a lens that you might be working with. So I can change that there. Configure again, go back to 61.771 or whatever it was. And you can also change some of your rendering options here. And I don't often change those, to be honest. I like the defaults there, so that's fine. You can also change the layout. So this is where you can get to, would be a default layout. So this is the layout as it currently sits. You can right click and change one of the view, change the that viewport to a different type of view if you want right from here. Again, shortcut is just clicking right on the title bar, but it's kind of cool. You can also change your layout to any one of these types. So you can say, okay, I want this kind of layout and I want this to be my perspective view, so I can change that to perspective. I can have this be, a top and a front view if I really want, and then I can even have this be a whole other range of view of dialog boxes and editors. So if I go to track view, I can have it be a new track view. That would pertain to animation. I can have it be a new schematic view or a grid view or extended view, different types of, you have an asset browser in 3D Studio. So if I make it a new schematic view and then click OK, I can choose some options for the schematic view or just leave them as it is. And what schematic view is a slightly different way to look at your scene. And we've been looking at scene very oftentimes with, just here, or potentially the select from scene dialog box, turn everything back on. This will give me a list of everything that's in my scene. But schematic view will show me relationships as drawn, in a kind of a flowchart method. And so this gets really handy when you're working with complex characters or animation and stuff. And you can manipulate schematic views in all kinds of different ways. But if we go back to configure here in the layout, you get the point. You can make this all kinds of different things. If I make that the asset browser, it's kind of handy. I can go in and actually look at the things that I have available for me to pick. So if I click on images here, I can look at all the different bitmap files that are in my render assets directory here. But not only that, I can also look at in my scenes directory, and it'll give me a little thumbnail of all my scenes that I have in there. So I can merge with this asset browser, but it's also just a web browser. So I can go in and go to that area again, and I can download stuff directly from here and copy it into directories and stuff. So it's kind of handy to be able to do that from right within 3D Studio Max. I'm going to come back to the quad layout, which is how I generally like to work. And there's this other menu up here, Views. This allows you also to manipulate various aspects of any of the views, really. So if you go to Under Views menu, you see you can change some of your options for different things that you might show or hide in that particular view. But the really useful one is Undo View Change. So if I have a camera, let's maximize this, and if I make a move, if I move that camera around, say, well, I like the shot better as it was, I can go to View and undo view change, and it'll go back to what I had just before. Now there's an undo queue, the separate undo queue, and so it's Shift Z and Shift Y, and you can change a few levels of changes to your view. You can undo those, so Shift Z, Shift Z, Shift Z, and go back to where you were a couple of moves ago. But a lot of times, let's say I like this render view. I can go to Views and I can say Save Active Perspective View. And that way, whatever modeling changes I make in here, maybe I want to work on the lights, so I zoom into those a little bit and move around. And even if I save the scene and exit out, I might want to get back to that camera view that I liked before. So I can always go to View and Restore Active Perspective View. It'll always take me back to that camera view that I happen to like. So, and this gets saved out with your file, so you can always return to this. But there's only really one active perspective view that you can save at any given time. So if you want to have multiple cameras for the scene or multiple views that you like, you can either create multiple perspective views, but those can get overwritten pretty easily, or it's better to create a camera. So if you use your perspective view to figure out a camera that you like, you can go under the Views menu and you can say Create Camera from View. Now create camera from view, and that will create a new camera here, an actual camera object in the scene for me. And then if I, went out to another, back to my perspective view and change the view again to some other, shot that I really liked, something like that. And then I can go under Views and do it again, Create Camera from View. Now I have a few cameras in the scene. And when I right-click here, those cameras will show up under my Views menu. So I can go to View Camera 2, that's the one I had before, back to Camera 3, and then I always have a perspective view that I can just do whatever I want in. And I don't have to worry about whether or not, I'm screwing up any camera work that I've done. So if I like another one, I can go View, Create Camera from View, and I can have as many cameras as I want in the scene. So whenever I'm ready to render one of those new cameras, I just go back to Camera 3 here, and I just hit this Quick Render button. And it'll come up with a dialog box. It gives me some information about it, and as it renders, I can see it. And up until now, that's how I've been rendering this whole time, just hitting this Quick Render. And that's usually, the default settings work pretty well.